For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney here with John Baker in the Mavenir booth at Mobile World Congress 2018 to get your take on some of the big trends that we've been seeing out of the show, predominant of which is 5G. So John, tell me a little bit about what you expect out of 5G in these early rollouts, and then once it matures a little bit more and we move to a full standalone 5G.
Yeah, sure. So the initial deployments of 5G that have been targeted for this year are what they call the non-standalone radios, where they're actually connected back to the 4G core. So you're going to see 4G type services, but with higher throughputs, higher bandwidth speeds. So there's going to be a mixture of sort of marketing activities where operators are going to claim high throughput on their networks, whether it be true non-standalone radio or existing radios, but using carrier aggregation. So I think we're going to see a lot of marketing activities this year around speed and throughput, and then the specification for the standalone radio is the new radio is going to be finished at the end of 2018. So that will start to kick in next year sometime. But in reality, from a services perspective, what's going on is that 5G is about re-architecting the network. It's not just about radio. Because the big driver is about latency, how to provide services, at the edge of the network. So, you've got higher throughputs on the radio, you've got the core moving to the edge in terms of EPC functionality, and then the services that are provided at the edge. So I think it's quite an exciting time, for new entrants into the marketplace, new product opportunities, and certainly the core as it gets disaggregated in the future.
Yeah, so certainly a lot of excitement around 5G, but we still have a lot to do with LTE over the years to come. A big focus I've been seeing is around enterprise LTE, and I believe you all have a new product that speaks to that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So as the networks are moving to the edge, whether it be 4G or 5G, it really comes down to how you can take the core and move it to the edge from a control perspective, from a radio perspective. And Mavenir announced just recently in a partnership with ADVA the enterprise LTE opportunity, where you can essentially put this very small footprint VNFs onto white box compute platforms, connect together with radio, and then on a IT, so it looks like an IT platform where you can plug it into the enterprise and have what we call enterprise LTE. This is really sort of being driven in the US market through CBRS type deployments where small enterprises will get licenses for LTE, and they'll want to build their own networks in terms of all the functionality of a mobile network, and then essentially back connect it to a mobile network operator. So I think what you're going to see on the enterprise side is hundreds and thousands of small LTE networks being built for for IoT, for LTE voice services connected in the enterprise, and then agreements being made with mobile network operators to interconnect for roaming purposes.
Yeah, you mentioned moving compute power and other functionality out to the edge of the network. That's a really big topic right now, and I think Mavenir also has a new virtualized mobile media breakout controller that speaks to that edge computing space.
That's right. So typically today, for 4G, 3G, the cores are essentially centralized, and as subscribers come on and you've got traffic growth, all of that traffic passes through the main functions of the core network. The challenge with that is that a lot of that traffic is not actually traffic that a mobile operator can make any revenue out of. As an example, 80% of the traffic in a mobile network is actually video, of which 40% of that is essentially encrypted video. So, in that sense, the mobile operator is, providing the network, providing all the core infrastructure, and all that traffic is just going straight across the top of the network. So, what we've launched is a media breakout controller, which, the name implies video. Putting that at the edge, so the ability to essentially drop all the non-revenue related traffic as quickly as possible into a local offload point. Through that box, if you say I can offload, say 30% of my traffic, I can actually save on my capital investments in the carrier network for over 2 years, It shows you how much non-profitable traffic a mobile operator is carrying today. So, we've essentially launched a product that can go right at the edge in the cell site or any node before the central control functions to offload traffic. And as I say, a carrier could get a 2 years capex saving by deploying this type of a product. So we're quite excited about the opportunities that exist with that product portfolio.
So we've talked a little bit about the core network. Let's talk a little bit about the radio access network. This is really quickly becoming quite an alphabet soup between CRAN, VRAN, ORAN. Help me make sense of all this.
Yeah, so it really started sort of back a year or so ago when you had the conventional RAN, and then CRAN came along, which was centralized conventional baseband units in a hotel, and then Cloud RAN, which is, by our definition of Cloud RAN, it's essentially virtual BBU functionality that can run on any open market third-party server, and that's really where the whole Cloud RAN discussion started. The operators are looking to essentially disaggregate, the hardware and the software in the network. So, I can buy a radio from a Katrain or a BBU from Mavenir, put the two together, and they should work. What you've seen over the last few days is a lot of announcements about ORAN, Cloud VRAN, and a number of other, XRAN type solutions that are coming to market. Also, throw in that, there's a lot of also RANs in all of that. So yeah, it's become an alphabet soup. It's become a little bit confusing, but I think the one good thing out of all of it is there's a lot of focus and a lot of momentum about making Cloud RAN, VRAN as a viable proposition for the carriers. And to summarize, it's all about open interfaces, open market hardware, and really bringing a bunch of new entrants, new players into the market to supply those networks in the future.
Yeah, so I think in sum, based on everything we've talked about here, it's clear that this is a really dynamic point in the evolution of the telecom industry. So what are some of Mavenir's priorities going forward in 2018 to help keep driving this evolution?
Yeah, so Mavenir has been one of the main architects of the XRAN specification as the open interface between the radio and the BBU. Certainly our first target is to see that specification out in the next month to the public, and we're encouraging open interfaces, we're encouraging open vendors. We're working with multiple vendors on supplying products to that interface spec, and then to get into finishing off some of the trials we have in place to commercial deployments. But it's an exciting time. I think the challenge for the industry now is that the operators have essentially brought together the groups of people to put these specifications together. Now the operators have got to stand up and start adopting these specifications in their RFIs, RFPs, and put their full support behind all these new vendors that are essentially going to support their new ecosystem in the future.
Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to keep us up to date with all the things Mavenir's doing and sharing your perspective on the industry.
My pleasure. I think it's an exciting time for the industry, and it's in its 20 years, it's probably at another tipping point.
Well, we'll catch up back then.
Thanks.